Well, gentlemen, this is my Quasi-arc 300 amp arc welder. I've had it for about 30 years and it's a really nice thing to use. It's very smooth in its use. It has two settings, 80 volts and 100 volts. You wouldn't really want to be getting a tingle off those, so dry rods only. Type ACP 300. Well, as I say, I've had it for about 30 years and I wouldn't be without it. I've had a couple of these little inverter things in the past 10 years, don't last very long. I can't even be bothered to mend them anymore. This one's out because I want an inductor for something, and there was one down there. And they're cracking little things. You can nearly put that in your wallet and carry it to work, but you really do need to know it's going to work when you get there. And I've also got one of these 1970s cheap and cheerfuls. This one actually came out of the canal in Wakefield. I don't know how long it was in the canal, but when they dredged it they found it and I scrounged it. I dried it out for probably 6 months, just left it, and then I plugged it in and away we went and used it. It's just fine. The only thing that seems to go wrong with those is the poor quality terminals inside, which are no problem. Anyway, that one's been in use for years and years and years. And when we want to go somewhere, that's what we take. Because if we take an inverter, the chances are we won't finish the job. And while we're talking about these old cheap and cheerfuls, they weren't actually so cheap. I bought my first one in 1977 and it cost £45 or thereabouts. And at 16 years old, on a first year apprentice's wages of £17 per week, that represented nearly 3 weeks' wages. Can you imagine now? 3 weeks' wages for a cheap old welder. Well, it was fine until it got stolen. And actually those welders from that era are better than the new similar ones. At least in my experience. Anyway, because the old ones had copper windings. And the newer ones, or ones that I've had anything to do with, have horrible aluminium windings. So if you can get hold of an old one, get it. Now back to Quasimodo. I changed the current by the manipulation of these two handles. It's quite easy, very positive. And one of the nice things about it is you can go down to a very low current, 20 amps, which can be useful. I use it when I'm making my plastic egg boxes, if anybody's seen that video. But, there we are. The main purpose of this video though is to show people how to wire it up. A couple of strange things. It's got a bulb holder in the top. I really don't know what that's for, but it's been disconnected from long before I got it. If anybody knows why they put a bulb, let me know. And it's got a cubby hole with a hinge door at the bottom of the thing, which one would presume is the thing for holding your electrodes in. I don't know whether it's heated and I've never even tried to find out. Again, if anybody knows the reason of that little cubby hole, let us know. It's as heavy as can be. It really is heavy, and the top is held on with 4 eye bolts, which are handy if you want to crane it about the workshop. I've taken the other 3 off because I was going to take the lid off, and then I remembered that you have to take these knobs off as well, so I can't be bothered. So then, to wire it up, this one, primary volts 175 to 550, single phase, frequency 50 Hertz. Well, it says that it welds up to 300 amps. How you get 300 amps out of a domestic supply, I don't know. I've never actually used it up at the top end of its range. So, under there there is a really nice and quite complex terminal block. I'll give you the wiring diagram of that terminal block later in the video, because it could be handy if somebody's got one that's been broken off or abused for some reason. Now, I was lucky because when I got it, there was the remains of a disintegrating wiring diagram at the top there, and as I always do, I took a copy of it, and it told you which terminals to connect to which for running it on the various voltages. So I will give you a good look at that a bit later. Anyway, the main reason for this video, the main purpose of this video, is so that the wiring diagram of these old machines isn't lost in time. I'm glad I've got it, and I hope it helps somebody else. So if it helps you, please subscribe. This is looking at the terminal block on the back of the machine. It's quite deeply engraved, and I imagine that most of them have survived. But according to the voltage that you're using, you put links across. By the time you get up to 350 volts, you start using this middle connector here, which is permanently linked, to link the various terminals in such a fashion so that the windings become in series instead of in parallel. I don't know where you get all these high voltages from on a normal British supply. You probably use 2 legs off a 3-phase supply. But if you don't know what you're doing, you really do need to take advice from an electrical engineer and get your work checked out before you plug the thing in. Good. So there we are, it's back in its cover, going back in the file. On my machine I'm going to copy one of these diagrams that came with the machine, laminate it and stick it in under the cover so that any future owner knows what's going on in there. And my pal here, I'm sure, will agree with me.